Hey everyone, Mr. DVB here with my first official Q&A video. Thank you to everyone who commented and asked questions for this. Obviously this video wouldn't be possible if I didn't have any questions to answer. I have a lot to go through, so this is going to be a pretty lengthy video, so let's just jump right into things. So the first set of questions comes from Overtaker, and he asks, how long have you been collecting steelbooks / Blu-rays? Now this collection you see behind me is my family's and myself, and we've been getting Blu-rays, since probably 2007, 2008. Myself personally, I would say I really got into it around 2016 when Force Awakens came out on Blu-ray. That was like probably the most excited I had been for a Blu-ray up until that point. And then following that, I kind of just got really into it, especially once I got 4K, which was in like 2018. I got a 4K TV and player. That's when I really got into getting it, and I would pick up almost every blockbuster that I saw. I would try to get them on 4K, and yeah, so I'd say 2016 was probably the big year for me where I started to get into collecting Blu-rays and steelbooks. Favorite Star Wars character? Favorite Star Wars character overall would have to be Luke Skywalker. I've always loved Luke's journey throughout the original trilogy. I even liked how they handled him in the sequel trilogy, which I'm not going to dive in super into that, but I think he was underused in the sequel trilogy. I think I wasn't a fan of how it was like Episode 7 was Han Solo's movie, and then Episode 8 was Luke's, and then that's it. I think Luke should have been used in 9 as well, not just in one scene as a Force Ghost. I think he kind of should have continued on. But I do like his arc they gave him. But overall, yes, Luke would be my pick. I just love him in the original trilogy. I think Episode 6, it's my personal favorite Star Wars movie. I think it's the weakest out of the original trilogy at the same time, because I feel like a lot of the characters in that movie are kind of pushed to the side. It feels like the focus is completely on Luke, Vader, and Palpatine, and I'm fine with that, because that's my favorite aspect of Star Wars, is literally that whole throne room part of that film is my favorite Star Wars thing ever. But, yeah, Luke would be my pick. I just love Luke as a character. And then he asks your most anticipated upcoming movie. Just in general, The Batman is easily my pick for that. I cannot wait to see Robert Pattinson in the role. Everything about the movie, the director, the aspect they're focusing kind of like, on the crime, or not like the crime, but like on the corruption, I should say, of like the government and the mayor and whatnot in Gotham. I love that concept because it's something that we've kind of seen a little bit in movies before, but not really. So getting that like fully focused on that, you have the Riddler played by Paul Dano, who is literally the perfect pick for that casting, and just all these things visually. It's a weird thing to say, but in the trailer you see Batman and it's raining at nighttime. And I know it's weird to say this, that's not something you see in most Batman films. I think the only Batman films that actually have rain at nighttime, which just seems like an aesthetic thing that normally would be there with a Batman movie, is Batman Begins, and I think Batman vs. Superman. Those are the only two I can think off the top of my head. And I know it's a weird comment, but that's just something that the second you see Batman standing there at nighttime in the rain, it just immediately, it feels like Batman. And so stuff like that. Gotham, the architecture, it seems like they're getting that right. They're not just using, a generic city. They're using London for, kind of downtown Gotham, so you're going to have a lot of, stone architecture and stuff like that. I don't know. I think they're nailing it. I think they're definitely nailing it. And I just can't wait to see it. And the action looks incredible from that part where he beats the crap out of the one guy. So that's my most anticipated movie overall. If you're focusing just on 2021, I'd have to say No Time to Die. I really like Daniel Craig's Bond films. I think No Time to Die looks great. The second trailer looks phenomenal. The first trailer I was not a fan of, but the second one, really good cinematography, super action-packed. It was really adrenaline-fueled, and just can't wait to see his final outing as the character. And in my opinion, Casino Royale, great. Quantum of Solace, not very good. Skyfall, great. Spectre, not very good. So if we follow that order, this should be a good one. And then he says favorite TV series of all time. That's kind of a tough one for me because I'm not the biggest TV show person. I've talked about this in the past. One of my issues is that I think TV shows can go on for way too long, and whereas with movies I kind of get straight to the point. Sometimes yes, movies can feel rushed, but TV shows can just be a slog sometimes. Like Walking Dead, for example. That show I used to love it, and then around season 6 I just got so bored with it and I quit during season 7. I'd have to go with probably Simpsons. I just think Simpsons is hilarious, and some of the most iconic, recognizable animated characters of all time come from that show. So Simpsons would have to be my personal pick. If you're talking live action, it's a mini series, but I loved Haunting of Hill House. Got very invested in that, so either of those. Then my friend Christopher Z, he asks your favorite / best theater experience. I have two picks kind of. My best theater experience. It was probably Avengers Endgame or Star Wars The Force Awakens. Both of those movies were just filled with these lively, excited crowds. Endgame more so. Like I just remember with Endgame, you know, you'd see a character appear and there'd be cheering, or like when Cap uses Mjolnir, there's just clapping and cheering, and it was really an amazing experience to just be in a room filled with hundreds of people who felt that same way. Obviously that's something I have not experienced in a very long time, but yeah, that was a pretty amazing theater experience. And Force Awakens for me was really special because being as big of a Star Wars fan I am, that was the first Star Wars film I ever saw in theaters. So getting to be there, I was dressed up as Kylo Ren, a character who I hadn't seen on screen yet, and just being in this crowd of people who were excited as I was, and when the opening crawl happened, there's clapping and cheering. There was something about it that just, it felt like something I'd wanted to experience up until that point in my life, and I finally got to, and it was great. So Force Awakens was probably the one that meant the most to me, and Endgame was probably the most lively and entertaining to be there for. And then Christopher Z also asks who your favorite actors/actresses. So I actually have a list on my phone of favorite actors. Just some off the top, we have Steve Buscemi, who there's just something about Steve Buscemi I love. He could be in anything, and it would automatically be a 10 out of 10 for me. Willem Dafoe, Tommy Lee Jones, Michael Caine, Christian Bale, John Goodman, Chris Pratt, Adam Driver, Harrison Ford, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson has grown on me a lot in the last year. Those are like my list of favorite actors. A lot of them are, I don't know what the words you would use, but like, they're obviously stars, but when I think of them, I don't think of them as stars, except maybe like Chris Pratt. And what I mean by that is, it's like, you know, you have your stars, or, you know, like Chris Evans, guys like that who are like in the Marvel films and whatnot, they're good actors, but like, you've got guys like Gary Oldman or who else I mentioned, Willem Dafoe, who I feel like, I don't think of them that way. I think of them as like people who just genuinely give these incredible performances, and that's kind of the actors I prefer. I don't really know, I think the word character actor sometimes or something like that, but those are just some of the top of my list that I love. And actress-wise, actress is a bit harder for me, but I really like Amy Adams, Natalie Portman. Those would probably be two of my favorites right there, so yeah. Then he also asked your favorite gaming experience. My favorite gaming experience would have to be Uncharted 4, because I was a major fan of the Uncharted franchise, and that was the first Uncharted game I actually picked up on release date. All the other ones I had played, I think, in like 2012 or something. And so just getting to play that game like day one, picking it up, it was such an incredible experience. And I think that game easily has the most satisfying conclusion to anything I've ever been invested in my entire life. Like, the way they sent off those characters was absolutely perfect. I remember playing it, I did the entire series on a live stream, and I had a little tear. Like, I was so sad and happy at the same time because it just ended it perfectly. And that's my favorite game to this day, so Uncharted 4, easily my favorite experience. I remember getting up for school early one day, like an hour early, so that I could stream for like a half an hour. So I got up at like 6 a.m. maybe. And then I also remember, I don't think I faked sick, but I think there was something with my eye, like, I don't know if it was an eye infection or something, but I remember I stayed home, and I remember streaming for 7 hours playing the game. And I think that was the same day I finished it, so yeah, Uncharted 4, favorite experience, easily. And then, is there anything else from... No, that's it for Christopher Z, so thank you for those questions. Then we come to Inverted Enthusiasm. He asks, what is your favorite comedy show? I'd have to go with The Simpsons, just hilarious, and I love it so much. And then favorite action show. Action show's a bit tougher, because I can't really think of a show off the top of my head that's pretty much just action. So I'll just go with one that has action in it. I mean, Game of Thrones had some awesome action sequences, but then the show, I watched all of it in like a month, right? Like, I binge watched that show leading up to season 8, because I hadn't seen it before, and then season 8 sucked, and I kind of feel like I just wasted the last month of my life watching a show that was good and then went nowhere pretty much for me. Mandalorian I've loved so far, especially season 2 I think is much better than season 1, and it's had some great action. So I guess Mandalorian maybe, or Game of Thrones Mandalorian, one of those two. Or Band of Brothers, if that's a war show, but incredible show. You have to watch that if you guys haven't seen it, it's so good. So any of those three. Then my brother Taylor, he sent in some videos, so let's check those out.
Hi Mr. DVB. I'm just wondering which PlayStation 5 exclusive you're most looking forward to in 2021. Thanks.
Alright, so my most anticipated PS5 game for 2021 would probably have to be, easily God of War. God of War Ragnarok, whatever they're going to call it. It got announced fairly recently, and all it was just like, a logo. It said Ragnarok is coming in 2021, which was a huge surprise. So if it does come out in 2021, that's a for sure release date. Easily God of War. If not, since I'm a bit skeptical if that's going to happen, I would have to go with Horizon 2 Forbidden West. I wasn't even the biggest fan of the first Horizon. I think one of the issues was that I played it over the course of 3 years. Rather than, completing that game in, a week like I normally do, I got it in 2017, and I did not finish it until 2020, because I kind of went back to it every once in a while, and I don't know, it wasn't really my thing, but then near the end of the game I actually really liked it, so I think Horizon's a game I'll have to replay. Forbidden West looks great, so yeah. But no, I'd have to go with God of War easily. And one more video to watch.
I'm just wondering how you feel about Warner Brothers releasing their entire slate of movies next year on HBO Max, along with releasing them theatrically. Thanks.
Yeah, so the Warner Bros. Situation, it's interesting. I understand in a way why they did it, but at the same time, I think that they shouldn't have rushed into it. I think they should have waited for Wonder Woman 84 to come out on HBO Max first, just to use that as kind of a film to test the waters and see how that works for them, because they announced a while back that they were going to be putting, Wonder Woman on streaming as well as in theaters. And I was like, I wasn't the biggest fan of the decision, but I was like, whatever, they can test it out. So for them to just kind of jump immediately to, yes, we're going to do that with all of our movies, I'm not the biggest fan of that. Now, I think where I live, theaters probably should be open, because they were open a while ago, but then they closed again. They've been closed for about like a month or so. So they should open again probably by like February is my guess, and then I think I should be fine to go and see those films in theaters, and I certainly will. Because there's things like, King Kong versus Godzilla. That's a movie that, like, probably isn't going to be very good, first of all, but, like, that's a movie that you just have to see in, like, IMAX or on the big screen. Like, just watching it on your phone or your TV is just pathetic. But I understand why people would prefer that option over seeing it in theaters, obviously. But they're going to lose money. No doubt about it. They are going to lose money, for sure. And I'm just hoping that doesn't drastically affect other companies who are going to follow the exact same way. We'll see how it goes. I'm hoping it doesn't go that way, but who knows? We'll see. Alright, and then Tyron Bell Williams, he asks, what do you think about the future of theaters? Well, like I kind of just said, I don't think theaters are screwed, right? I don't think this is going to, like, destroy theaters and theaters are going to be gone in the future. I mean, they probably will be one day, but I think they're going to be fine. I just think, we're in an odd time anyways where theaters are kind of screwed. So, I don't know, it's tough to say. I think, obviously, this is going to hurt theaters for sure, but I don't think it's going to completely end them. I just think it'll be kind of like something that damages them in the meanwhile. Alright, Solo Trooper asks, thoughts on RoboCop? I watched RoboCop once in my life, and that was probably about 7 years ago. I remember really liking it. I remember thinking it was just this really awesome, over-the-top 80s action movie. It reminded me kind of like Total Recall, where the violence and the blood is just so over the top. Like, I remember watching the remake, which I sadly own on Blu-ray. I do not own the original. And I remember when I watched the remake, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. The suit was way too slick and stuff like that. But anyways, I remember like in that film, it was PG-13, and the way he kind of gets, his body destroyed or whatever before he gets put into the suit was, there was a car bomb. He opened up his car door and his car blew up. And you didn't really see anything else besides that. In the original, it's like, there's a group of guys who are just shooting him, and his limbs are flying off, his legs, his arms are being blown off, and it's just like the most gory, over-the-top thing, and I just remember like, what the hell am I watching? It was hilarious. So yeah, from what I remember, I mean, it's a fun 80s action film. What new video series are you creating? Currently, I don't have any plans for any new series, per se. I would like to bring back movie battles. I've been saying this for like 25 years, which I haven't even been alive for, but I've been saying it for a while that I want to bring back movie battles. And I've had a lot of ideas for movie battles, so that's something I could certainly bring back. Otherwise, nothing really else. I mean, there's some videos I have planned. Like next week, I'm going to be doing a live stream reaction with some people. Like my friend Aiden's going to be joining me, hopefully some others, and we're going to be reacting to the Game Awards, so that's something I'm excited to do. But yeah, series-wise, nothing really planned as of right now. What are your favorite YouTubers? I love Red Letter Media. They have quickly became my favorite movie review channel, movie discussion channel. I think not only are they good at reviewing things, I think they're hilarious, because they don't try to be overly professional at all. They just sit down and say their thoughts, and they have a lot of general knowledge about movies, so it's just great listening to them as they're sitting there drinking beer in their great set. It's hilarious, and their skits are also super funny, so RLM, easily my favorite YouTubers out there. I also really like Hello Greedo when it comes to anything Star Wars related. I've always thought he was a very professional, great channel. BamTube TV, my good friend, he is probably my favorite channel, or favorite smaller channel for anything movie related. I think he just makes some awesome content, so go check him out. And IGN, I mean, they get hate, but I've always liked IGN. They've always been my go-to channel for anything game review-wise and whatnot. I've just always really liked their channel, so I'd have to go with IGN. And yeah, those would be my picks. Then my friend Noah, or also known as NTD Films, he asks your favorite short film that I've personally made. I think I get asked this a few times, so there'll be some overlap here, but I'd probably have to go with Double Crust. That was the last one I made back in June, I believe. It was my final grade 12 media production project that my friend Aiden, Nathan, and we all made it in the course of one day. Like, I wrote the script, I think the night before we filmed, and then we filmed, I think, starting around like 3 or 4 p.m., and we filmed until 2 a.m., and then, I just edited from like 2 till 8. I handed it in at 8:30 online, and yeah, I was really happy with how it turned out. Like, I thought it was, for our quality of film, I thought it was well written. I thought we did a really good job with the cinematography. Like, I was really happy with how we managed to handle that first scene where there's like a discussion between these two characters in a car, because I think we had like 4 or 5 different angles that we would cut between, and there was one angle that was outside of the car, kind of looking at us from the front windshield, and we were sitting there talking to each other, and the audio was actually coming from my phone that I had in the car and I recorded, and I would just match it to the video over top. So that was kind of a fun thing to do. We got creative with it. I mean, there were some behind-the-scenes videos and photos from that where you can just see like our cheap ways to block out light. Like, we had like a giant towel or blanket or something that kind of went over the car door to block out sunlight. It was really cool, just kind of getting creative with that, and so really happy with that. There's also just some very funny behind-the-scenes videos, outtakes and stuff where like they would throw water on my face in this one scene and I would laugh, and we had to film that like 4 times probably.
Oh my god, you laughed!
And you missed! You got it all over the X-Wing.
And I remember Aiden's dad, he came in and he was wondering why there was water on me, and we didn't want to tell them that like we got the garage like covered in water because there was a ton of stuff in there. And so I was like, oh man, it's just really hot in here, I'm sweating a lot. And his dad believed me, and I remember we were laughing so much afterwards because I was drenched, so it was pretty funny. But yeah, no, I would have to say Double Crossed easily would be my personal favorite. And then CNC, he asks, which movies inspired you the most? There's certainly, I mean, if you watch some of my short films, there are very obvious films that inspired me. Like, when I did Confusion, the obvious thing there is Joker. That was completely like, and a lot of the time it's not even like intentional, it's just in my subconscious, these ideas, I'm like, oh, that's a good idea, and then I realize, oh, that's literally Joker. So like in that film, for example, the character, he doesn't take his medication and he starts seeing things, like there's this one girl that he likes and all of a sudden she's into him, and that was literally just Joker, and I didn't even think about that when I was writing it. I was like, oh, this is great, like this fits with Confusion, because it was a school project and we were given an emotion that we had to convey in a silent film, and so I was like, oh, this is a great idea, yada yada, and then I was like, well, it's kind of Joker. And then it's even more obvious when I literally throw in Rock and Roll Part 2, which was used in the stair scene. Very obvious. But no, I think the movie, personally, like, that I saw in theaters, or in general, that when I just watched it, there was something about it that just clicked with me, was Interstellar. That is one of my favorites, if not my favorite movies of all time. That was another good theater experience as far as just witnessing it. The theater I saw it in wasn't very good, but that was a really amazing experience for me. That movie, like I said, it's probably the one that I connect to the most out of any film I've ever seen. Easily the most emotional film, in my opinion, that I've ever watched. And yeah, Interstellar I connect to so much, and that's what really got me into film, in the sense where it's like something about it clicked with me. So I'd have to say Interstellar if you're talking like a film like that. So yeah, and then what else? Then BamTube TV. He asks, what is your favorite short film that you've made? Again, Double Crossed. I think that question might get asked one more time, I'm pretty sure. What upcoming short films do you have planned? Right now, I don't have any new ideas or anything. I'd still like to make, some of the ones that I talked about previously. I would still love to get to finally make Memoria, which was sadly like postponed just because of coronavirus, and now I'm in complete code red, so I can't even hang out with any friends. The thing is, for me, is it's like, as soon as like, things get a little bit better and I can maybe have like gatherings of like 5 or 10 people, I'll probably go back to making films. Because the thing is, I see some of my friends at work, like I literally work with some of my friends, so it's like, once we can hang out in person still, I mean, we'll go back to making things for sure. But the thing with me is like, I really want to make a short film right now. Like, I've just been thirsting for that so badly. Alright, then he asks, what is your favorite and least favorite part about making short films? My favorite part is probably, okay, obviously when it's complete and you're watching it, that's probably the best part of it, obviously, but I think just the process, I'd say editing is probably my favorite, because when it comes to editing, usually I wait until I have everything's finished filming, and you kind of just sit down, you know the order you want things to go in, and you get to just basically choose which angles of the shots you want, or the scenes, I mean, and you just put it together, right? And editing is always something I've really enjoyed, especially when it's something like that I've shot myself. So editing is a process I really love. My least favorite process would probably be writing. I think writing is something that like can just get really difficult and frustrating sometimes. Filming is a little bit iffy. Sometimes filming goes really well and you guys, like, you and your friends are just into it. Other times you're filming with people who have no interest in the project. That was kind of what happened when I made my Murder at the Monarch film. Was I canceled it because the people I had in it just could not do anything, right? It just did not work out. So that's also a tough thing. And this isn't really a process, but I'd say honestly the hardest thing about making short films when they're not school projects is probably just, you know, wanting to make it, right? Just having the motivation. That's something that's really hard to get because when you're doing something outside of school, people have way less availability. Some of the people you have in it aren't necessarily into the thing as much as you are, right? When I'm doing a school project, it's like me and my friends who are in that class, so our goal is to finish that thing and get a good mark. When it's outside of school, it's a lot harder. So yeah, motivation is probably the hardest part. And then he asks, what is your dream project? If a studio offered you a blank check to make a movie, no matter the budget, cast whoever you want, whatever genre, what would it be? That's a great question, first of all. That's a tough one. I've always been into murder mysteries and things like that, like, you know, there's like these mysterious type things. I would love to make a, like, 40s kind of, like, noir kind of film, and I would pick some of my favorite actors, like I said. So I can just see Gary Oldman for some reason as, like, this older detective wearing a fedora or hat or whatever, and just in, like, a trench coat, you know, inspecting, like, these murders. I'd have, like, Adam Driver and, you know, tons of actors like that, and it would just be a movie like that, you know, kind of this 40s noir. Would I film it in black and white? Possibly. I think that could be kind of cool. I don't know, something like that I would just love to make. So thank you, that was an awesome question. And then, what else? Parker, my friend Parker, he asks, favorite short film you've made? Would have to be, Double Cross, obviously. Favorite band / artist? My favorite band, the thing is with me, when it comes to music, I am someone who, quite often, if I'm listening to something, it's probably a film or video game score, which I know is weird, but, like, I just really like listening to, like, scores. And in that case, Hans Zimmer is my favorite composer. But if I had to go with, you know, actually like a band / artist, band CCR I've always loved. I think they have so many great classic songs from, like, the 60s and 70s. So probably CCR if you're talking a band, or Red Hot Chili Peppers, who my brother used to listen to a lot. And if you're talking, like, a singular artist, I really like Elvis. I know that's kind of hilarious, but Elvis, I don't know, there's some songs of his that I really like. So, yeah, any of those guys. I know, it's a weird list, going from, like, CCR to Hans Zimmer and Elvis, but... Alright, and then, do you believe in any conspiracy theories? I don't know, that's something I'd have to think about. None off of, like, the top of my head. Like, I'm not one of those, like, oh, Bush did 9/11 people or anything like that. I don't know, I'd really have to think about conspiracy theories that are, like, popular ones and see if I agree with them. I'm sure there's some that I'm probably, like, a little bit questionable with, in the sense where I'm like, yeah, that does seem kind of iffy. I can't think of any off the top of my head. Okay, this is not a conspiracy theory, I believe. I remember just thinking about this at the beginning of the year. I remember when there was all the Hong Kong riots, right? And that was a huge thing. The media was all against Hong Kong, or not Hong Kong, they were against China and how they were treating Hong Kong. And then I just remember thinking to myself, I was like, oh, it's kind of funny how literally, like, all of a sudden the coronavirus happens and nobody talks about Hong Kong. I'm not saying that that was what happened, they intentionally started it. I just remember thinking it was kind of interesting how it went from riots and, you know, the media being completely against China to all of a sudden, oh, there's a coronavirus, there's this virus that exists. Not that that's what happened, I just think that was funny. That was something that I just joked about at the beginning of the year. Favorite part of filmmaking, editing, film, cinematography, directing, writing, etc. Editing. Editing probably my favorite. I also love just, like, you know, acting and because I feel like when it comes to acting, it's like I don't think I'm very good at it per se, but I usually, like, since I'm writing it or something like that, I kind of know how I want the character to be, so if I just work on it, I can kind of get the way I want it to be portrayed. That's why I definitely want to make a film that requires some more acting, because a lot of mine are just basically like action films or things that don't require anything super special. So I'd like to make something with dialogue, with more mature themes or whatever, that has more intense acting. Because I've got some friends who I'd love to bring in some of my projects who have never been in any before. And then that was the last question from him. And then my friend Kevin, he has got a ton of questions. I still got a ton to go. My friend Kevin, he asks, what would you consider your most successful short film project? Success-wise, if you're just talking how it turned out, again, Double Cross is my favorite, and I think that turned out really well for the fact that it was made in 24 hours. If you're talking view count and stuff like that, Indiana Jones is my most successful, but that is far from being my favorite film that I've made whatsoever. But that is the one that got the most views. He says, what is your favorite kind of video to make? Short films is like my favorite, obviously, but if besides short films, since that's something I don't honestly do a ton, sadly, on this channel, gaming reviews I think would be my favorite because I put so much work into those, right? When I make a movie review, I sit down, I give my thoughts, I'm done. And then I throw in the rating and stuff like that. So it maybe takes me like tops an hour to make. Whereas if I'm doing a game review, they take me like 6 hours to edit. Especially ever since Last of Us Part 2, I go in and I record my own footage using my Elgato capture card. So everything I say is literally like part up to what I'm talking about. So if I say, oh, in this game you can light your sword on fire, I specifically go in and record that, and that's a lengthy process. But there's something about it that just feels really special, and I feel like my gaming reviews, just from a personal standpoint, I think I edit them very, very well. So those are the ones I'm most proud of. He asks, what movies in your past sparked your passion for filmmaking? Interstellar, again, was the movie that when I saw it in the theaters, it really changed things for me. But I think one movie that kind of at the top of my head, I don't know if this really affected me overall in any way, but I just remember loving it when I was younger, was Super 8. I actually watched it again last night, and it's a J.J. Abrams film. I like it. I don't think it's amazing. I'd give it a Super 8 out of 10, but I do remember, like, just when I watched it for the first time, probably back in, like, 2011 or so, I remember really liking that it was about kids making movies. I mean, that's not the main concept of the film, but like that's an aspect of it, is kids making movies, and I thought it was so entertaining to watch, and that was before I really got into making my own short films. So did that get me into it? Probably not. I think one of the things that got me into making short films, besides my love for movies, was my brother's short films that he made when he was in high school. Those I always was like super into. Oh, I forgot to mention another short film very quickly that I am very proud of is my drug PSA. Random thing to say, but I think we got some amazing shots in there. Like, that was probably my best short film I've done, and really well edited to the music. It's not necessarily the most effective as a PSA because we didn't really have any voiceover or anything, but shot-wise, I loved. And sound design, like, everything in that I really liked. So if you guys haven't seen it, check out my drug PSA. I'll put a link in the description. It sounds so weird saying that, but I liked how it turned out. And a lot of my short films, by the way, are for school. Or they were. I'm not in school anymore. Then he asks, out of one-shot games, non-franchised, which did you enjoy the most, story-wise, character-wise, overall enjoyment? Okay, that's a tough one. If by, like, franchises, do you mean, like... Because if you're talking, like, you know, like, something like, oh, it can't be Star Wars or Spider-Man, then, yeah, I wouldn't say any of those games. But if you just mean, like, something that it just genuinely cannot have a sequel, so I couldn't go with Last of Us. Because if you're talking characters and stuff, like, in story, Last of Us, the first one would be my pick for characters and story. And then overall enjoyment, as well as characters, would be Uncharted 4. But since those are a part of a gaming series, if you're just talking a singular game, for story and characters, I would have to go with Death Stranding. I got super invested in that game's story. It was very weird, but I really liked it, and I really liked the characters. I felt there was an emotional story for each of them. And if you're talking overall enjoyment, I really, really liked Ghost of Tsushima. That's one that comes off the top of my head. I really liked Demon Souls. That was a ton of fun. So those would be some that are not a part of others, like not a part of a series gaming-wise. But if you just mean like not a pre-established franchise, you know, like Marvel or something like that, then I'd have to go with Last of Us and Uncharted, which are my two favorite games. Alright, and then he asks, how do you find fitting music for your videos, or inspiration for film scores? Okay, so when I make my short films and I try to get music that fits, typically what I do is I just think about the tone I'm going for. Like if I'm making when I was making Murder the Monarch, you know, that's, again, it was like a 40s noir thriller kind of, and I wanted to get music that just embodied that. So I would search up, you know, noir detective music or anything like that, really. I'd find some themes that or just some random composed things online that I thought were really good. I would find some movie scores that I really liked, and then I ended up watching, what do you call it? Cape Fear. It was a 1990 remake directed by Martin Scorsese. I think it was 1990. And I thought it was a pretty solid film, but I loved the main theme. The main theme had this very sinister, kind of mysterious tone to it, and I thought to myself, that is Murder the Monarch. That is the perfect score for that. So if you guys watch my Murder the Monarch trailer, which I might throw up here, I used the Cape Fear theme for that, and I thought it fit perfectly. Love to make Murder the Monarch, so guys, that's like, from a writing standpoint, probably my favorite thing I've ever written. I just love the concepts and stuff, but it was way too long for a school project, and so I had to ditch it. I'd love to go back to that someday. It would just be harder to film now, with like the locations that I wrote for it. But yeah, that's something I would love to make. And yeah, otherwise, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of movies, like, I just know a lot of scores, and I think that a lot of them, like, just fit a lot of times. So it's just a gut feeling I kind of go with. But I will do my research, right? Like, again, it's just, if I'm thinking, okay, I want some good chase action music, you know, some kind of like action-y scene that's there's like a chase going on, I'll search up action chase music and kind of just sort through like playlists and stuff until I find one that really works for me, and then I use that. And I'm not somebody who's ever given a crap about copyright. I don't make money off my videos, so if I get copyright claimed, it doesn't affect the video whatsoever. It might lower like how often it's presented on YouTube and people can find it, but typically in whatever, I'll just get the music I want. Is there any specific area in the film area you'd like to learn about more or improve in post-secondary? I think I'd like to just learn more about just like filming, like just cinematography wise, because that's something that I've always liked, but you know, that's also probably like one of the more difficult aspects is like nailing getting things shot well, and so that's something I'd really like to just kind of learn more about in post-secondary, because I do want to go to film school. And another thing this isn't really something about secondary, like post-secondary necessarily, but something I would just like to do for my short films in the future is get more equipment, because I have a tripod that I am missing the headpiece, so I'm literally filming this on top of a cardboard box. I would like to get like some lights, some studio lights for my films. I would love to get. I have enough money right now to buy a boomstick and a mic. It would cost me like probably $500. I might do that actually. I might get a really good mic on a really long boomstick and have that for my films, because I would love to get an external mic and not have to use the shotgun mic that I use. So I might actually invest in that. So thank you for bringing that up. So yeah, thank you for those questions, Kevin. Those were all great. Awesome questions. And then my friend Chelsea, she asks quite a bit. She asks your favorite childhood video game memory. Oh man, when I was younger, okay, one specific memory I do have from playing, because I mean I have games I grew up with like Crash Bandicoot, Wrath of Cortex, and Star Wars Battlefront, but specific memory was I remember playing Lego Indiana Jones, the original Adventures, and I remember I was in the basement of my house I lived in BC, like the first house I lived in BC, or maybe second, I don't know which one it was, but anyways, we had a projector, and I was playing on the big projector, and my dad had this family over who was from the Middle East, because my dad was working over there because he's military, and so he had this family over that he was friends with, and I remember one of the daughters I was playing Lego Indiana Jones with, and I fought Belloc. It was like the final boss fight of like the first movie, and I just remember like when the level started and it was like the health bar for like a boss fight, we both looked at each other and we were like, and I don't know why, that's just a memory I have, that's from like literally 2008, so you're going back 12 years, but that's just something that's always just like stuck with me. I thought it was kind of hilarious. So that's a random memory. What got you into making movie reviews? There's a lot of YouTubers who just like, when I was younger I used to watch like Chris Duckman, Jeremy Johns, etc., who I just loved their movie reviews, and I was just like, yeah, I want to do that myself. I don't know when I think Amazing Spider-Man 2 might have been like the first movie I reviewed, honestly, back in like 2014. That would have been on one of my older channels, but yeah, I really liked watching people make reviews, and I was like, yeah, I kind of want to make my own. So I kind of started doing that, got into it, kind of became the main thing for my channel. Obviously, I haven't reviewed anything in a while. The last movie I reviewed was Tenet and Unhinged, and then before those two films was like The Way Back, which I saw back in like March. So it's been kind of a empty year for films, but yeah, that's kind of what got me into it, was just other YouTubers and my love for film in general. Most frustrating moment while gaming, editing / filming. Gaming, frustrating is kind of tough because there's so many games I've played that it's kind of hard to pinpoint an exact moment. Demon's Souls had some frustrating parts with boss fights and whatnot, but yeah, that's one I don't really know if I have an answer for gaming, but for editing, easily. When I was editing my Demon's Souls review, that was a pain in the butt, because every single time I tried to render it, it would crash eventually. It would just say that there was an error between this time and this time in the rendering, and it would tell me what part of the video the error was at. But a lot of the time, it was literally just 2 milliseconds. It would be between this frame and the next frame, so it would be literally one frame that had an issue, and I didn't know what was up. So I tried countless times, I tried countless different things, and eventually it worked, and I got my review up. That's easily the most annoying experience I've had with editing. And with filming, the worst filming experience I ever had was probably either Indiana Jones, just based on the fact that like I had no idea what I was doing. But the worst was probably honestly Murder of the Monarch, and that was one of the reasons I canceled it, was because we were filming this one scene in the gym. I was using a stabilizer. I had a ton of people there. Some people showed up late, and it just was a mess. And I was like, yeah, I can't make this film. So that was probably the most frustrating filming moment of my life. Upcoming ideas? I don't know. I do have some minor things in the back of my head, short film wise, that I might start writing some stuff for. Nothing really that's fully bloomed yet, but we'll see. Favorite movie villain of all time? Heath Ledger's Joker. Easily. He's incredible in that role. I mean, it's been said so many times, but yeah, that's just such a fantastic performance. Besides him, I love Bane in The Dark Knight Rises. I think he's extremely underrated. I hate his death, but I think he's a great character and a great villain. Darth Vader, Kylo Ren, those are like some of my favorites of all time. But yeah, Heath Ledger as Joker would be my favorite. Videos that make you laugh. Okay, one particular video that I've always found hilarious. It's Elijah Wood from the Lord of the Rings movies. He is basically, it was like this fake interview that they had set up. Or he thought it was a real interview, where basically it was, I think he was in the States or something like that. I don't remember where he was, but Dominic Monaghan, who played one of the characters in the series, I think it was either Merry or Pippin. I think it was Pippin. They couldn't see each other, so he would ask him questions over this call, and he would say like, okay, but the questions were like really goofy, like they were stupid, and they were really hilarious, and Elijah Wood just laughs hysterically and he starts crying, and that's something I've always just found really, really funny, because Elijah Wood didn't know who it was because he was doing an accent, very, very funny. So that's one video off the top of my head that's always just made me laugh. Plans after quarantine. Well, as soon as the current quarantine we're in, like just as far as like the current state, the current code red, I would love to hang out with friends, watch movies, make films. And after everything's blown over completely, I don't know, just continue life. I mean, honestly, what I'm doing right now is literally working and playing PS5. That's something that's going to continue no matter what. But yeah, definitely want to just hang out with friends, make films. Love to see you again. This has been a while since I've seen you or anybody else from the Drama Squad, so that'd be nice. Upcoming movies / games you want to review. Movies, any film that comes out in 2021, any film that comes out in general. I'd love to just get back to making some reviews. I know Mank comes out today. I'm very interested in that. It's the newest film from David Fincher. It's about like the screenwriter dispute between this guy named something Mank and the director Orson Welles of Citizen Kane. So that's something I'm very interested in, so I'll probably review that. And games, Cyberpunk I'm very excited for. So Cyberpunk I'll be reviewing Sackboy Big Adventure, Resident Evil 8 when that comes out. Pretty much every game I play I review, every movie I see, I typically review. Not always, but most of them. You could join a movie universe, which one? I'd have to go with Star Wars. Star Wars, to me, there's so much. There's so many planets to explore. And that would just be incredible, to just live in the Star Wars universe. I used to think when I was younger, not younger, maybe like a couple years ago, so younger obviously, but not like super young, I was like, man, if heaven is real, like when I die, I hope you can just live wherever you want, and I would live in the Star Wars universe. I don't know why I thought that, that'd be so amazing, right? Just walk around on these planets, and I don't know, Star Wars universe easily be the one I would live in. Otherwise, I love the Middle Earth franchise, and that would be an incredible area to live in, but Star Wars is my easy pick. What do you do when you're creatively burnt out? How do you cope? That's a good question. When I'm creatively burnt out, because that's happened to me before, right? Where I'm trying to come up with an idea and I just don't have any ideas. So when that happens, I honestly just give up for a little bit. I stop doing what I'm doing. I kind of just take a little break and then come back to it, because short film ideas come to me in the weirdest times, right? I think the times that I most often get my best ideas is when I'm just walking. If I'm outside walking, which doesn't happen very often, sometimes ideas just pop to my head. I remember I was working at Little Caesars like a year ago. I don't work there anymore, but I remember I was walking home from work once, and on my way, I had this idea for a short film. I don't remember what it was, but I just remember an idea popped in my head. So that's one thing. Also, just kind of watching other short films on YouTube, watching movies I get inspiration from. So that would probably be how when I'm creatively burnt out, like, I don't go on walks, I'm creatively burnt out, I kind of just give up for a little bit, which I know doesn't sound like a good message, but sometimes it works. Sometimes if I just take a little break. Other times if I'm writing, I'll just stop writing for the night, and just when I get up in the morning, I might have some better ideas at that time, and can just kind of reapproach things. So yeah, I don't know, I'd say that kind of. A movie you'll never review. I don't know, there's a lot of movies I'll technically never review, but just off the top of my head, films that I've watched that I won't review, I don't know, let's say Shark Boy and Lava Girl. I don't know, I'll probably never review that. But I honestly might, because there's literally a sequel or something like that coming out next month, or this month maybe, so I don't know. I have zero idea which movie I'll never review. And then the last question comes from my friend Aiden. How did you get into filmmaking? Again, I think just my passion for film, it kind of just, my life just moved towards that. It just became something I like to do more and more. But I also, like, my brother's short films got me into it in the first place as well. What videos of yours are you most proud of / had the best experience making? Like I said earlier, I'm very proud of my game reviews. I'm very proud of some of my short films, particularly the one that I mentioned earlier, Double Crossed. Very, very happy with that. Because, you know, Aiden, the thing is, like, when you, me, and Nathan work together, the three of us get along so well. We have, like, the exact same ideas, and, like, we don't have, like, disputes or anything like that. We just film. Like, it's great. I don't know. So that would definitely be, like, one of the things. That's the thing I like is about my friends. It's, you know, it's like me, Aiden, Nathan, Kevin, all of us. Like, we all love making films, and so it's always great when we get to work on projects together. Any plans for upcoming projects? Okay, one that I will kind of say that I want to do still is a second Retaliation. Because it's been 2.5 years since the first one came out. It's been like a genuine movie gap, and I think it's time to make a sequel. We've been wanting to make one for years. I remember, like, after we made the first one, we had concepts for the second one, and we just haven't finished the script. Like, it's not even gonna be like, you know, that's like an hour-long movie. Like, it's probably gonna be like 20 minutes. We just haven't like really finished any versions, so we definitely need to get back to that. So I'd love to make a second Retaliation. That's something I've always wanted to do. And then, you know, I want to try to finish off Memoria and maybe do something else someday. How has this year impacted your videos? Greatly. When the year started off, I kind of transitioned to doing live streams and talking about playing games, doing walkthroughs, which did not do well for my channel. I didn't like looking at my videos and just having a bombardment of gaming videos. So I put all of them in unlisted and put them in, like, you know, like their own playlists. And so that was kind of like just something where that was just me like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna just play games, I guess. Obviously, barely any movie reviews for me this year. And then another thing that affected me besides that is just not getting to make short films. So it's basically affected my main source of content. I have found ways to strive. You know, I've been doing a lot of game reviews and stuff like that. You know, getting very excited for the PS5, so I kind of did my road to PS5 videos and stuff like that. But it's definitely affected it. Like, all of the main things I normally make videos on, I just haven't been able to do. Who is your favorite person and why is it Aiden Colligan? Well, Aiden, you just answered your own question. Why? Because you're a great guy. I don't know. We think very similarly. We get along very well. And yeah, that's why you're the best person in the entire world. So yeah, guys, thank you for all those questions. That was great. How long this video was it? 41 minutes. Jesus. Long video, but I knew that was going to happen. Anyways, thank you all for watching this. It means a lot for all the questions, and I will see you guys next time, so bye.